Please, everybody calm down, my mother-in-law said, raising her hand gently like a judge about to deliver a final ruling. My husband, Lekan, and I were sitting on opposite sides of the living room like two politicians who had just finished a heated debate on national television. The issue? Money. To be honest, it had started with something very small, like many marital disagreements do. I had spent money on something for the house that Lekan believed was unnecessary. I believed it was essential. He believed it was extravagant. I believed it was wisdom. You can already see the problem. Our voices had risen slightly, and the tension in the room was thicker than Lagos traffic during rush hour. Then, my mother-in-law, Mama Adelekon, cleared her throat. What she said next shocked me so much that I almost dropped the glass of water in my hand. If my son cannot speak to his wife with patience, she said calmly, then I clearly did not train him well. Silence. The kind of silence that makes even the wall clock sound loud. Lekan blinked slowly, like someone trying to process unexpected news. And I sat there thinking, wait, did my mother-in-law just defend me? Because, according to the stories I had heard before marriage, that moment was supposed to go very differently. Long before I married Lekan, my friends had already prepared my mind. In fact, the way they talked about mothers-in-law, you would think they were describing a mysterious species that appears only after weddings. One evening, while we were sitting together after church, one of my closest friends leaned forward and said dramatically, "Let me advise you before you marry." I nodded. The real exam in marriage, she continued, is not your husband. I blinked. It is the mother-in-law. Everyone around the table nodded seriously, like a panel of experts confirming scientific facts. Another friend added, some mothers-in-law behave like their son's wife is competing with them. A third one said, shaking her head, just be prepared. You may need plenty of patience. By the time they finished their speeches, I was mentally preparing to meet a woman who would examine my cooking, question my decisions, and possibly run my home like a government inspector. So, when Lekan announced one Saturday afternoon, "We are visiting my mom tomorrow," my heart performed gymnastics. If you are a Nigerian woman, you already know that meeting your future mother-in-law is not an ordinary event. It requires preparation, serious preparation. I changed my outfit 3 times that morning. The first dress looked too flashy. The second looked too casual. The third looked respectful, responsible, and slightly humble, which was exactly the image I was trying to project. I also carried gifts, because in Nigeria, you never visit elders empty-handed. That is practically a cultural crime. When we arrived, Mama Lekan opened the door with a bright smile. She looked at me carefully for a moment, then laughed softly. So this is the young woman that has been making my son forget to call his mother. Everyone burst into laughter, including me. Just like that, the tension melted. But the moment that truly surprised me came later. When Lekan stepped outside to answer a phone call, she leaned slightly closer and said quietly, "Let me tell you something about my son." My heart skipped. This was the moment I had been warned about. The moment where she would probably list all the things she expected from me. Instead, she smiled warmly. "Lekan is a good man, but he can be stubborn sometimes." I laughed nervously. Then she added playfully, "If he ever starts behaving like a village chief in your house, call me. I will remind him who raised him." I stared at her in surprise. This was not the speech I had expected. The first year of marriage is a fascinating season. It is beautiful, exciting, and occasionally confusing. During courtship, people show their best habits. After marriage, you discover the rest. For example, I discovered that my husband believed every chair in the house was an acceptable place to drop clothes. Clean clothes, worn clothes, clothes that were somewhere in between. When I asked him why he could not simply put them in the wardrobe, he answered confidently, "I will wear them again." The problem was that sometimes those clothes stayed on the chair long enough to qualify as permanent furniture. Whenever Mama Lekan visited, she would notice these things, but she handled them in a way that made everyone laugh. One afternoon, she looked at the famous chair filled with Lekan's clothes and said, "My son, is this chair a laundry basket now?" Even Lekan laughed. Then she turned to me and said kindly, "My daughter, don't worry. He has been doing that since secondary school." She never blamed me. She never criticized. She simply made the situation lighter. One day, not long after our wedding, I attempted to cook a pot of egusi soup that did not cooperate with my plans. The ingredients were correct. The method was correct. But the result was confusing. Mama Lekan happened to visit that afternoon. She tasted the soup thoughtfully. Then she nodded slowly. "This soup," she said carefully, "is very creative." I burst into laughter. Then she rolled up her sleeves and said kindly, "Come, let me show you something small." In less than 15 minutes, she had transformed the soup into something that tasted like it belonged in a restaurant. She never said, "You don't know how to cook." She simply helped. One afternoon, after Lekan and I had our first serious disagreement, Mama Lekan visited unexpectedly. She found me sitting quietly in the living room, clearly not in my happiest mood. She sat beside me and asked gently, "What happened?" I tried to explain the argument. She listened quietly without interrupting. Then she said something I will never forget. "My daughter, marriage is not about winning arguments." She paused. "It is about protecting the relationship." Then she laughed softly and said, "When I first married Lekan's father, we argued so much that even the neighbors knew our schedule." I laughed. "But one day, I realized something important." She continued. "If both of you insist on being right, the marriage will always be wrong. That advice stayed with me. One evening, while we were chatting in the kitchen, I asked her something I had always wondered. Mama, were you ever worried that I would take your son away from you? She looked at me with genuine surprise. Why would I think that? Then she explained something beautiful. When a son marries, he does not lose his mother. She smiled gently. His family simply grows. She then told me something that touched my heart deeply. I prayed for many years that God would bring a good wife into my son's life. Then she looked at me warmly. I believe that prayer was answered. I felt tears gathering in my eyes. Over the years, I realized something important. Many people fear their mothers-in-law because of stories they have heard. But stories are not always reality. Some mothers-in-law truly want their children's marriages to succeed. Mama Lekan once said something very wise. A wise woman does not compete with her son's wife. She supports her. And she proved that through her actions again and again. Today, when people complain about mothers-in-law, I often smile quietly because my experience has been very different. My mother-in-law did not weaken my marriage. She strengthened it. She did not create division. She encouraged unity. And she often reminded her son, whenever necessary, that loving his wife well was part of being the man she raised him to be. Looking back now, I sometimes laugh at how worried I was before meeting her. The woman people warned me about turned out to be one of the greatest blessings in my marriage. Marrying Lekan gave me a wonderful husband. But gaining Mama Lekan gave me something I never expected. Another mother. And if you ask me today what one of the quiet secrets behind our peaceful home is, I will tell you honestly. It is easier to build a strong marriage when the mother-in-law is cheering for the team instead of playing against it. We hope that you enjoyed this story. If that is so, like and share this video. We would love to read from you. So, leave a comment in the comment section about the lessons you have learned from this video. You can also tell us where you are watching from. Please subscribe to this channel too. Thank you for watching this video. Bye.